Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another edition of Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner. I'm your host, and I'll introduce the gentleman around the table with me. But first, I need to make sure that you have an understanding of what you're getting into when you're listening to or watching this program today. If you are wondering if you're ready for retirement, if you are thinking about getting invested in your future, if you're trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my kids' education in the future, maybe you're just like, what's the most amount of money that I can actually save and invest so that I can live the kind of life that I want to live and maybe even pass on a legacy to the future generations? This is the place for you. Because at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, that's what they do. PremierIWM.com is the website. Go there, click Get Started. They just have a few questions for you to answer. They'll keep the Q's and A's in confidence, but they will provide for you and they will create something individually for you. It's your own one-page Premier Vision document. It's only one page, but there's hundreds of pages behind it, and there's tons of information behind it, so much so that they will give you a free meeting to sit down and walk through the plan so that you can know where and how and when you're going to implement it, because I think you're going to want to. PremierIWM.com, the one-page Premier Vision document, the free meeting at your place, here at their place, or you can do it over the internet as well, any one of those ways. Take advantage of this because it's not something that happens all the time. PremierIWM.com or call for your appointment today, 800-383-6590, Premier Investments in Wealth Management. Named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Introducing around the table today, Jonas Everett is a wealth advisor with over 31 years of experience in the investment industry. And it's always good to see you, Jonas.
Good to see you, Doug.
How's
I
golf
think this
going?
is 15 years for us on the radio.
Wow.
I was thinking about that the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
I want to know where you discovered the fountain of youth because you look better than you did when you started.
You look marvelous. You haven't changed at all either. So, I mean, Casey, I remember it was maybe, how old? Was it 10 years ago that you started? Or was it 15?
On the radio?
On the radio, yeah.
It was about 10.
10, okay,
Yep.
10. So you were there for the back part of the year. He walks into the studio, he's like, what is this whole thing? And what's with the burnt umber and the brown? Yeah, they got this little swankier place.
It has upgraded slightly since my very first time when I went over to Broadcast Park.
Yeah,
you didn't like the leaky roof and the
I didn't know
weather crashing
let me tell you this, Jonas. I did not know what to expect, but it was not that.
No, but nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition either. Casey Mushrush, she is a wealth advisor, certified financial planner, professional as a CFP, over 11 years of experience in the investment industry. I know him as Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just you, though, Doug.
And he's my neighbor, and it's always good to see you. By the way, I love this jacket today.
Hey, good. Hey, I was gonna say something. I was actually listening to one of the other shows that we did here not too long ago.
Yeah.
We had an hour of premium financial content. Do you know how many times we talked about investments?
How many?
0.
Really?
Precisely 0 times that investment and asset allocation actually came up on that show.
Really?
The entire show was on other financial topics.
Are you good with that?
I think it's fantastic
Okay.
because when we look at what we do and what we talk about, it isn't just investments. It isn't just go buy that one company that's making those things that are really fantastic, that are getting installed all over the place, right? It's really much more comprehensive than that. And I think that it's just kind of neat that it had just occurred to me kind of to the end of that thing. I was like, man, we didn't talk about that at all.
That's interesting. I like that perspective, Casey. Elias Randel is also here. He's Vice President, Wealth Advisor with the Certified Exit Planning Advisor Stipulation, CEPA, and he's also the new sheriff in town. Elias, good to see you. Over the 4th of July, one of the places I ended up is you stayed in Cambridge in an old firehouse converted to a hotel, but we were literally right across from Google headquarters in Cambridge. Akamai was down the street, all these high-end companies. And it was so interesting because I was like in basically the Silicon Valley of the Northeast.
Sounds very patriotic and like a good way to spend America's birthday.
Oh, Massachusetts is the cradle of liberty, and they celebrated well, believe me.
Did you order a Paul Revere's pizza while you were out there?
No. I did order a dozen oysters though.
The folks in my neighborhood celebrated very well.
Yeah.
Too.
Really?
Yes. I bet I had 3 neighbors, and if I were going to estimate what they spent on fireworks, 3 different neighbors went from right about 9, whenever it started to get dark, for an hour straight. It was, and then it was like a back and forth deal too.
Oh yeah.
So it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I spent 0 money and did not go anywhere. I was just sitting by the fire pit in my front yard.
Sit out there with the lawn chair, the fire pit, and a beer in your hand.
Yeah.
That's great.
I spent part of the show floating on a floaty in my pool. So it was awesome.
That is so good. We hope that you had a fabulous 4th of July and 250th birthday of our nation's independence as well. We'll be celebrating throughout the rest of the year, and we'll be celebrating helping you get to your financial independence as well. Elias, first question for you from Jerry. I'm 64 and I'm retired. My wife's 54 and still working. Cradle robber. Half the people I talk to say Social Security, take Social Security and just invest it, as you'll make more than waiting until you get older. Others say the tax hit isn't worth it because my wife still works. I've talked to a couple of financial people and get mixed answers. What is your opinion? There are a number of different things here that are going on. Well, one of the key things is that if you go, say, 62, you're eligible to take Social Security and you don't, you delay it until X year, there's a guarantee that it will up by X percent, roughly?
The longer you wait, the higher your monthly income will go with Social Security. Here's the reason Jerry's getting mixed answers. Doug, have you ever seen a juggling act where they can juggle like 6, 7 things at a time?
Yeah.
So deciding Social Security is a lot of mental juggling, and there's all these different things to think about, and then they all relate and start to touch each other. And it is a difficult decision. It is a big decision. In my opinion, there's no one size fits all. There's no universal answer. So I will talk about some of those pieces to be juggled in your mind and think about. One, just be careful with blanket advice. Some of the people telling you take it early and invest or wait until 70, those are typically oversimplifications of the topic. Taxes are only one piece of the equation. And in this situation, the wife's income, depending on what it is, could make Jerry's Social Security more taxable than it should be. So you should start to look at your claiming strategy and what is kind of the lifetime tax is going to be. This one's big for Jerry and his wife with the 10-year difference.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the surviving spouse. And right now, he's asking this because they don't need the Social Security income. If they needed it, he'd just go turn it on and take it. Well, with a 10-year difference, or any age difference really for that matter, from a risk management perspective for your income strategy, it might be very beneficial for Jerry to wait until age 70 because assuming he passes first, being older, the family will lose one of the paychecks, and every family will lose the smaller of the 2 paychecks, whatever's out there. So the good news is you get to keep the higher one, but you do lose an income source. So for Jerry's situation, he could, if you start to think about, well, how do I protect my wife long term and her income? That might be a very important thing for him.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is. I would also look at the rest of your income strategy and how that's going to work. That needs to factor into when you claim. And the last thing I'll say about it, I don't think the best time to file is just based on a rule of thumb. It's not necessarily based on optimizing your different returns. And I don't even like to do this scenario where I take the Social Security and invest it and what could it turn into. I think there's more important things to consider with this. Just with the basic knowledge I have of Jerry and his situation, I'm going to start thinking about how to protect the family's income long term. That's probably my starting place for this question. So it's too important of a decision to rely on just friends and family, generic information that's out there on the internet.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that go along with this. I was thinking about it because you start thinking that, all the things you're juggling, you've got a ball, you've got a plate, you've got a bowling pin, you've got a burning piece of wood. I mean, all these crazy things that you're juggling out there that don't match up with one another. And in reality, this is something where having a professional on your side, Casey, is one of those critical things to help you make the decision, especially when I just look at the math here. The expectation for Jerry, on average, is that he's going to live another 12 years, and then his wife is going to live another 27 years.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Doug. How in the world do you file for Social Security without doing a financial plan first that involves a family tree? This is all about life expectancy. That's all it is about. And this is the biggest guaranteed paycheck that most people are going to have. So again, back to if you're going to spend 5 hours on your family summer vacation, spend 5 hours to do a financial plan before you file for Social Security and get a strategy in place.
Well, I think amounts are important too, right? We're kind of coming at this under the assumption that Jerry made more money than his wife. If she's the primary breadwinner and she's making a lot more, and her Social Security check based off a primary insurance amount or projected primary insurance amount is going to be significantly higher than what his is, there's not really a reason to wait.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Yes,
we don't have that information.
Yeah, we don't have that information, but
So
that
we
would
don't
be
know.
true.
Just crunching the numbers, I hate to use rules of thumb or a general rule, but if people are listening, a good guideline to start with, if you don't want to come and get a financial plan first, and I'll run this by Casey, usually if you have the highest wage earning spouse, wait until full retirement age and then take it. Usually you get the most money out of the system. So that's where we start out, Doug, with our Social Security planning.
Right.
So
Generally, however, to your earlier point, life expectancy is a
absolutely.
primary driver.
That's why we get a family tree.
Yeah, and that's part of the financial plan too. And this is something that's really neat because when you do the Premier Vision document, I don't know if it necessarily goes into that. What?
I think it's funny that we're sitting here and we bring up these scenarios and we all come back exactly to the same things.
Okay, I thought I screwed something up.
No, I'm highly amused at just our lack of ability to deviate from what we've actually already said.
Well, no, I mean that's the whole point of it is that it works. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different. Well, you do something again and again and again, and you have tried and tested results, and that's one of the cool things about this.
Well, and it's again, I get back to kind of something you mentioned, Elias, which is don't let the tax tail wag the dog, right? That scenario I laid out, taking that Social Security, claiming it early, is it going to have some negative tax implications? Yes. But that's not the point. That's not the main driver in that decision matrix. So is it a consideration? It absolutely should be. But it's not going to be the only thing.
Yeah.
And so I think what has a tendency to happen, and I'm guessing, Jerry, you're probably engaging in some water cooler financial planning, which is what we call it, where you just go ask friends and family, well, what do you do? What's your experience been? And unfortunately, that can lead to not great outcomes. Can it work? Sometimes. Sure, possibly. But that's not going to actually give you an answer that is the right one for you.
Exactly. Get in touch with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Even go to the website at premieriwm.com. Download their guide to Social Security claiming and make sure you have a professional take a look at what your situation is. It's critical. I mean, if you're getting ready to do a cross-country trip with your car, you're going to stop by your mechanic to make sure everything's ready. Your battery, your brakes, your belts, everything's topped off. You're getting ready to go into retirement and they're talking about Social Security. Why would you not visit them to make sure everything's topped off the way that it needs to be as well? PremierIWM.com, Premier Investments in Wealth Management at 800-383-6590, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Thank you, Jerry, for that question. Jonas, Colton wants to know, I got $15,000 from my grandma as a graduation gift, and I want to invest it. Should I put it all into the market now or spread it out over a few months?
What stands out to me, Colton, is great job that this $15,000, you're thinking about investing it, and it's not going to turn into a new motorcycle, because if this is a graduation gift, it's either college or high school. So you're definitely on the right track. I think there's no perfect answer. You're trying to balance two different risks here. If you look at the data, historical data on returns, lump sums outperform gradually putting money in the market in every time if you give it an amount of 20 to 30 years. Yeah. However, if you're looking at it on reducing your risk on a short-term basis, just feeding into investments on a monthly basis, you're going to get the average of all the prices, Doug. And if we do go into a downturn, you're going to be automatically buying low if that happens. So one of the things that I would look at too as a new investor is you don't know what your behavior is going to be, your personality as an investor. You're going to be a brand new investor. Do you want to look at this stuff all the time? Or do you want to put it away and just put it into something for your future? So this reminds me of a really fantastic customer that I have. He's a farmer in western Iowa, and he's really a salt of the earth kind of guy. A real joy to talk to. And I asked him point blank, how'd you do it? You have all of these financial things going on, these farms, and he just seems so busy and so happy all the time. And he said, you know what? I just found something as an investment that I liked, and I just put it in there, and I forgot about it. And that kind of resonated with me. So I'm thinking about Colton here, a young man with $15,000 from his grandma, and I'm thinking to myself automatically, maybe we have too much tunnel vision about the stock market. Maybe we should split this up. He said all in the stock market. Maybe we should put $5,000 into a short-term liquid CD. Maybe we should put $5,000 in just to a regular retirement account. Maybe we should put $5,000 in the stock market, and then that way you're not putting all your eggs in all your baskets. So, but either way you want to do it, you could do a lump sum. You could do it on a monthly basis. A lump sum has a history of outperforming doing it gradually on a monthly basis. But I would actually try to get Colton out of this thinking of all or nothing. Yeah. Because I think that the stock market is just kind of automatically that something. It's an automatic investment that people think of when they get money, but they should probably be thinking more of a bucket strategy than automatically the stock market.
Yeah, Colton, good questions for you to think about as well. If you go to premieriwm.com, they have the Investor's Guide series that you can download, and it's going to be something that you can just sort of work your way through. I know that you just got done with school and you graduated, but it never hurts to always be educating yourself, and that's what they can do for you at premieriwm.com. Make your appointment online or call 800-383-6590. Casey Mushrush. Marshall wants to know, I funded my Roth IRA pretty aggressively this year because I wanted to get ahead on retirement savings. Then I unexpectedly lost my job. If I need some of that money back while in between jobs, can I withdraw my contributions without getting hit with taxes or penalties?
Marshall, thanks for sending this in, and sorry to hear about that. It's never a fun time when these kinds of things happen on that. The good news is that typically, or generally speaking, our contributions that are made over to a Roth IRA can be withdrawn. So, you just mentioned that you were funding your Roth IRA pretty aggressively. Now, what I don't know is, was this only for 1 year? Was it for 5 years? Was it for 10 years? We don't know how much basis you have built up into that Roth IRA. So the amount of basis or the amount of contributions that you've done, generally speaking, you should be able to pull that out. And that does come in terms of the IRS ordering rules. That would actually come out first, meaning that you could tap into that. Now, that being said, just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. I think you should really be looking at this as maybe a last resort effort. If you have other emergency savings, that's one of the reasons that we put emergency savings in place, is to account for situations like this. Trying to understand or trying to have things already built prior to this. Now, I understand that you're in the process where it's like, well, it's a little bit late for that pre-planning. I'm already in the middle of it. So it is something that you could do at that point in time if you really needed to. But ideally, we wouldn't be unplugging those investments, because if you start to pull out that contribution, you are going to be unplugging that long-term retirement asset and not be able to enjoy the long-term growth that's going to happen within that account over a multi-year, multi-decade time frame at this point. Now, that flexibility does exist for a reason, so if you do absolutely need to tap into it, you certainly can. Make sure you have a plan of getting that back or putting that back over into place once you're through this season, of this unemployment season, actually at that point. So Roth IRAs are absolutely wonderful when it comes over to the flexibility. Ideally, in a best case scenario, we don't have to tap into those accounts, but sometimes situations like this may demand that you may need to get into that just a little bit. So make sure that your tax preparer, whoever it is, whether you're doing it yourself, whether you're hiring somebody, make sure they know the total amount of contributions that you have put into that plan since it has been opened up. So since whenever that account was opened up, how much you've actually put into it to know what your basis is when you go complete those IRS forms.
And make sure something else that you do, and I'm just pulling this up here real quick. I just wanted to make sure no matter what state you're in, whether you're in Iowa, Texas, West Virginia, no matter, because this is a nationwide thing, whatever your state, Department of Labor, always make sure you reach out as quickly as you can to the state unemployment insurance people. They are there and willing to help you. And the quicker you get in front of them with the more difficult questions, the better you're going to be able to plan. So make sure you do that as quickly as you can. And since you were talking about Roth IRA, Marshall, go to premieriwm.com, download their Rothification guide. Again, at premieriwm.com. You can make an appointment online. You can also call to make your appointment at 800-383-6590. That's the phone number for Premier Investments in Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Heading over to, each one of you. I've got a question. I'm going to drop in on each one of you for this one, and we're going to go with Casey for this question's answer first. Kristen wants to know, can you explain Trump accounts? We were talking about those here before we even got started. You had a funny little story. My mother-in-law keeps telling my husband and I we need to get one for our newborn daughter, but I don't really know what they are or how they differentiate from a 529. Casey, what is a Trump account?
Kristen, absolutely wonderful question. Congratulations on the newborn. So you just told me a couple of pieces of information there. Let's start with what a Trump account is. I'm going to let somebody else cover the education savings accounts. Basically, the Trump accounts are a new account type that was established underneath H.R. 1 or underneath the big, beautiful bill. To put it just very, very succinctly, they function more or less like a traditional IRA. However, they do not have the contribution requirements or the earned income requirements that you would typically see with a traditional IRA. Now, there are some other minor differences between those and a traditional IRA, but you can put up, and this is various different people who are related to the child who is under the age of 18. So in order to establish it, the kid has to be under the age of 18. They have to be a U.S. citizen. They have to have a Social Security number, and they can only have one Trump account. So you can't go open up 17 in 17 different places. There's only one that can exist. Now, parents, legal guardians, and siblings and grandparents can open up an account on behalf of the kids. So your mother-in-law, theoretically, without you actually doing anything, could go open this up for your daughter. She's going to have some information for the 4547, which is the IRS tax form, which allows the election or allows the creation of these different accounts, such as Social Security number, date of birth, some additional information on that. But more or less, there's a very specific set of investment options that are available. They're pretty restricted over off that side. You can get like $5,000 into these accounts on a per year basis on behalf of the kid. Now, where this matters actually for your newborn daughter, there is a pilot program right now for kids who were born in 2025, 2026, I believe. But your daughter is actually eligible for a $1,000 seed contribution from the U.S. government. Now, this actually came up in a conversation in my house here the other day. I was sitting with my 8-year-old, and we were talking about complex financial planning topics, as you do with an 8-year-old.
Yes, of course.
I guess that's what I do at my house. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I made some comment to my wife. I think she was in the other room, and I yelled that, hey, we need to go file the form to open up a Trump account. And my 8-year-old pokes his head and says, hey, what's that? And I said, oh, well, the government's going to give Owen money. Owen is our baby that was born in 2025. And Henrik looks at me and goes, why are they doing that? And I said, I'm not really sure, son. I think this is very dumb, but by golly, we're going to take advantage of it.
Okay.
So my son got a lesson in how things are not always fair because his younger brother is getting some seed money that he does not get. And so he was a little bit bummed on that, but you know what? Them's the breaks. So.
That is too good. I love that story. That is great, Casey. Thank you. Elias, talk to us about how a Trump account differs from a 529 plan or how it doesn't differ from a 529 plan, and explain what a 529 is.
529 is an education-focused, tax-advantaged plan. So the first way to differentiate these in your mind is Trump account, I would really look at more as a long-term retirement account, a way to accelerate some retirement savings. 529 is really designed for future qualified education expenses. So if you're a family that you are planning for college and you want money for education, that's where the 529 is going to start to be the better vehicle for those goals. I don't want people to think that these goals need to compete with each other. These accounts absolutely could complement each other for a child and their long-term savings. But I wouldn't, if someone said, I want to start saving for college, so I'm going to do a Trump account, the money you want set aside for education expenses, I would really lean towards the 529 in those scenarios. So step one, determine what you want the money to be for. I would view Trump accounts as an addition to retirement savings, longer term savings, and then 529, I would view that for education goals.
Gotcha. Jonas, talk to our listeners and viewers about how parents should decide whether a Trump account makes sense for their family or if it doesn't.
I think in general, starting early is really the secret sauce to investing. So I love the idea that your mother-in-law has. We need to look first, is it going to affect your overall financial situation in the family? So if you're going to do any accounts, is that going to deplete your emergency fund? The best really depends on your complete financial picture. If your mother-in-law is interested in you opening up any kind of account, maybe she can contribute as well to your child's future. But ultimately, this is a great thing. This is a milestone that if more people grasp this concept of putting money away when kids are first born. I actually received a phone call from a customer. It was July 3rd. I was getting ready to watch the fireworks at my brother's house on the golf course. And he said, yep, we had our 7th grandchild. So he was all excited. I'm like, great, it's an independence baby. And he's like, yep, I'm going to pull some money out of this, that, and we're going to open up a 529. I'm like, congratulations, that's awesome. So it's a family milestone. It's something, but it's also a financial milestone to get newborns, to get youngsters headed in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Because think about it, Doug. Think about what's going to happen. This youngster is 0. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think Medicare and Social Security is going to look like 65 years from now?
Who knows? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
do you think the benefits will be less or higher for this person?
I'm thinking probably higher, but not maybe less. I mean, I don't even know if it's going to be here.
Right.
That's the whole thing. You can't predict.
So maybe, like Elias said, a combination of both. But just to have this top of mind and just set something up, I think, is the way to go.
Well,
is there any? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I look at these, and again, to your point, Elias, I mean, maybe as a wealth transfer strategy, might make a little bit more sense on that because I don't have earned income issues, right? So if I've got a kid that is, they're doing lemonade stands or something like that, and we're just trying to, start that exercise muscle or something along those lines, and we're looking for some way to introduce them over into some form of a marketplace or investment account, maybe it makes sense in a situation like that. Or maybe if I'm, a grandparent or something like that, I'm looking at trying to do wealth transfer on a deferred basis, right? Because they're not going to have access to it immediately. But I want to give, a couple grand, $3,000-$4,000 a year to my minor grandkids. Maybe that actually is a place where that Trump account does make sense if we want to quote it, sort of put some limits on it where it's locked away. Now, that being said, I haven't seen anything, just because these things are super new, on when that kid turns age 18, are they now in charge of those funds that they can deplete it out if they want to? Okay, they pay ordinary income plus a 10% penalty on any gains. Do they care though? And that would be on any of the distributions coming from there. That may not matter to them. Maybe they want the liquidity. So I think if we're looking at things even of that nature, where it is, I want to put some things under lock and key, there might be better legal arrangements in order to fulfill those wishes of the person's making that gift.
Well, that may be one of the better uses of the Trump accounts, would be parents and grandparents, probably more specifically grandparents, because they're retired when their grandkids are young, to transfer some wealth, because it is eliminating the earned income hurdle.
Right.
Because we get asked, hey, can I start a Roth for my grandchild?
Right.
How old are they? They're 5. Well, I know a 5-year-old's not working.
Yeah, he's like, oh, really?
Right. So it does eliminate that hurdle.
We're going to pay payroll tax on that lemonade stand. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, clock in, clock out. Jeez.
So I could absolutely see it, the Trump accounts becoming a good tool for that. And I don't really know any reason, because the trial period, kids that get the free 1,000, you're born in 25 and 2026, right?
Well, I
So
can't remember exactly what it is. I want to say it's 2025 through maybe 2028. I just can't remember off the top of my head. All I know is that Owen qualified for it, and that's about as far as I read.
Right, because that's what,
that's what I cared about when I hit that.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of, well, if you can get the $1,000 free deposit, what would stop someone from opening one?
Oh,
Even if you never put other money in,
right?
The 1,000's free. It's good seed money to get started.
It doesn't matter. I think for Kristen specifically, if you got a newborn kid, you should absolutely either you go file that form or have your tax preparer file that form and make the election. Because on that form, there's basically a check the box that you want to participate in the pilot contribution program. Like, you should absolutely do that.
Yeah. Did a little research while you're doing that. It's 2025 to 2028, and individuals can contribute $5,000 a year to those. So, but it's that $1,000 a year. By the way, I'm very interested in what you're doing for harassment training over at the lemonade stand. You got the staff over there.
Were they waving zucchinis at you? Was it at that point of the day? Because that was definitely happening. I walked out and I realized that our garden had been waved. So my kids, without telling me, were selling our zucchinis from our garden.
Yes.
They're capitalists.
And I looked at my kid. I said, "Where'd you guys get those?" They're like, "Oh, we got them from the garden." They were selling. They were selling our. And I asked Caden. I say, "Well, Caden, how much are you selling that for?" He goes, "I'm going to sell this for $99." And I said, if you sell that for $99, I'll give you half.
Casey, you better count those pet cats again. They might be thinking that those are worth some money too.
Exactly. That's too good. You know what? The whole thing about this is that when you have the excitement of a new one entering the world, whether you are the parent, a grandparent, another relative, friend of the family, and you want to participate in this, they're doing this, you can jump on board. But as a parent, make sure that everything works together. It should meld together. It should be part of your overall financial plan, because mom and dad, your kids are involved in your finances too. It's not just about retirement. It's about day-to-day expenses. It's about the other family members. Get in touch with Premier Investments and Wealth Management over at premieriwm.com. Click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you a one-page Premier Vision document and a free meeting to go over it too. They'll come to you. You can come to them or do it over the internet. It's absolutely free, no obligations, and they'll present you that one-page Premier Vision document. You know what? If you're like me, you're going to say, all right, I'm with you. I'm going to be working with you now. Let's start on this, and maybe we start with the Trump account here, and we start with something over there. Let's get it all figured out, because it all works together. Your personalized plan at premieriwm.com, or call 800-383-6590 for Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2026 best in state wealth management team. Jonas, over to you for the next question from Maggie. Every time I switch jobs, I've rolled my old 401k into an IRA because I like the idea of having more control and investment choices. I recently saw a video that said you should keep rolling those funds into your new 401k for added flexibility if you want to retire early. Did I make a mistake? And then I'm going to have a point of privilege after you answer this question.
Sure, Maggie, what stands out to me is great job. You're being financially responsible for your future. Look at how many people just cash out their old 401ks and they don't do anything and they get cashed out automatically when they switch jobs. Here's Maggie. She's switching them over, transferring these 401ks over to IRAs. A couple of differences. So she hit the nail on the head, Maggie did. She has more control and investment choices when you're in a self-directed IRA account. So picture this, Doug. You go to a wedding reception dinner at a swanky restaurant and you get only 3 choices of meat and 2 choices of dessert and you get 1 appetizer. Well, where's the main menu at? Where's the main restaurant menu? That's where you want to pick from. Right. That's what a self-directed IRA is. You have access, you have choices to literally 10,000 different investments. You have more control over those investments. You can do rebalancing on an automatic basis. You can just get more control, but there's no size fits all. If you look at the advantages of rolling it into a 401k, they have a little loophole when you turn 55, you can actually take lump sums out of your 401k account, whichever employer plan that you're under right now. If this law still exists, you could take lump sums out without paying a 10% pre-withdrawal penalty. However, this is one of the biggest mistakes that we see people do in their financial picture is using their retirement as a piggy bank and taking out lump sums out of their 401k accounts because you still trigger taxes. So we really like 401ks as an income source on a monthly basis that you could spread the taxes out. So I would say that you could do, it's not an either or answer. You could do each one, but I think that you're on the right track with more flexibility and control with the self-directed IRA approach that you're doing right now, Maggie. And again, back to the theme of the program, if you're this good, if you're this good and you're this financially responsible for your future, you might need somebody to look over your back. You may need at some point a financial plan because you've done the hard part. If there's 1 or 2% that we can help you with to capture and just speed up that other 98% that you're doing, it's all about fine tuning. We might be able to help Maggie with some fine tuning here because she's done the hard part.
Yeah, 2 things. Number one, I know going through my situation is that because I've got severance that goes after 3 months, they're going to be actually pulling 401k money out of that severance into the 401k. So I can't bring it over here, roll it into the IRA I have over here for another like 45, 60 days, even after that whole thing is done. So
what's the actual date of that, Doug?
It's July 1st was the last day. So I told Mark about this, so Mark knows. So yeah. But then the other thing is having that flexibility to be able to do that, so you're not on the prefix menu. You're on the full menu, baby. Let's take a look at what the whole thing is, not just the salad buffet over here.
Right, and something to make sure too and because you mentioned this with the rule of 55, Jonas, that at age 55 you can take those withdrawals out of a 401k without that early 10% distribution penalty, but you do still have to be employed at that employer. So it's not just a rule that is applicable to all 401k plans. So let's say that you leave the money in an old 401k plan, you leave that job and go somewhere else. You cannot then go access that old 401k at age 55 without those early distribution penalties. That is only applicable if you are still working at that employer on the day that you turn age 55, that you can take advantage of those rule of 55 distributions.
Gotcha. Okay. This is a really good example of why being in retirement is not the only time when you need to be considering financial planning. It's not just the being in retirement, it's the decisions that you make leading up to this, just like Maggie has right here. Get started on your personalized plan at premieriwm.com. While you're there, download their 10 Critical Steps guide. They've got lots of education for you and inspiration at the website, because that's what they do at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. They educate, they inspire you, they help you take advantage of where you are in life in order to get you across the finish line where you want to be when you would like to be. That's the best case scenario, and they're working for that with a custom plan for you at premieriwm.com. Call 800-383-6590. And Elias, Jim wants to know, I'm 46. I spent the last 15 years building a successful business, but that opportunity has essentially disappeared overnight. I'm not going to go into details, but the landscape of the industry I was in changed. Loopholes closed. The core function of the business just isn't possible anymore. I have about $120,000 in savings, a small IRA, and very low living expenses. I'm working some side gigs until a more concrete job comes my way. I want your advice on two things. First, how to navigate this in-between time and make my savings stretch. And second, what steps to take to get back on track once I land a job.
Well, Jim's definitely in a career transition and in-between opportunities right now. The good news is he does have savings, so $120,000, which for ease of conversation, if Jim spends $10,000 a month, he's got about a year of living expenses. If it's $5,000 a month, he's got 2 years. So he's done a good job there. And how I would start to navigate this, first I'd look at what we're calling let's protect the runway here. Going to have uncertain income for a period of time. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is a good time to take unnecessary investment risk or make dramatic changes to the portfolio. At this point, the savings is now buying him time to get back on the runway, get back on his feet, make thoughtful decisions as opposed to desperate ones. Mm. And we talk about emergency funds all the time, and this is a great example of why people need an emergency fund. And the other thought that comes to mind, and Jim did mention a small IRA, I think the longer-term retirement savings is something to address when you get back on your feet and your income will be more consistent. Maybe Jim was planning on the sell of the business being his retirement plan. And that is a common mistake that even successful business owners make, is all of the money wrapped up into the business and the value of the business. You can still use retirement accounts and be prepared for, if for some reason this doesn't work out, I still have retirement savings. So I would keep one eye on today. We need to solve the immediate issue. His business is going away. Apparently it went away overnight, right?
Gone.
So keep an eye on tomorrow. You're going to be ready for those next steps after you get back on track. And even though he's been working for himself, it was for 15 years. So the experience he has is very valuable. Mm-hmm. Should be able to find another opportunity if he has to, go work somewhere. Between the leadership skills, problem solving, sales skills, operation, whatever skills he really sharpened over that time will still be valuable in the workforce. And he's only 46.
Right.
So he's going to be working for some period of time to come. So I don't think this is a time where we need to reset everything. I do think we need to tend to some more short-term immediate fires before we start thinking about the longer-term objectives and the goals. This doesn't sound like a huge setback for Jim. His savings might not be where it could be, but he is prepared for this with $120,000 in savings. And he said keeps the expenses low. I don't know what that means. He didn't define it.
Yeah,
but
very low. I'm thinking that it's like a house payment, and that's probably it, if that.
Right, and it certainly could be. So I think he's prepared for this. Should feel good about that. Gets a gold star for that. And Jim's been successful in business. I'm sure he will continue to be successful. I'd be shocked if he didn't get this situation figured out.
Yeah, good for you, and thank you, Elias. It's good because it's when you have some difficulties like that, something that just happens overnight and just rocks your world. It's nice to have somebody in this. I mean, literally, this is what you get. You're getting real talk, number one, but also, hey, they're cheerleaders, but they're going to be realistic with you and make sure that you have an understanding of where you are on the ground and the operational theater all the time in a 3-dimensional way, 4-dimensional as well. I mean, really, when you take a look at the time value of money, Premier Investments in Wealth Management doing that for you at premieriwm.com. Go there and get started with your financial plan or call 800-383-6590. Casey Mushrush, I see who asked this question, and I'm just dying to go into a Whitney Houston opening to this, but I will not do so.
You were afraid.
Just to say, and I'm 38, and I want to retire by the time I'm 55. I'm not worried about how much I'm saving to meet that goal. I'm pretty confident I'm on track, but I'm worried about where I'm saving. I've always gravitated toward Roth accounts. I have currently about 70% of my assets in Roth 401k, 5% in traditional 401k, then 25% in a separate taxable account. I'm in a 12% marginal tax bracket, which has led me to put all of my 401k contributions into Roth. The traditional is only my employer match. However, in the past couple of days, I've been reading how much more flexible traditional can be, especially for an early retirement. The more I read, the more confused I get. Should I be putting more in my traditional 401k if I plan to retire early? A lot of moving parts in this one.
Whitney,
Casey.
thank you for this question. This is awesome. So I really appreciate what you are asking here, because really what you're saying is you're not saying how much should I save. You're saying where should I save, which oftentimes it's the complement to that how much should I save question. You already passed that part. And what is the right place to be putting these dollars, at least over into the different account types? Now, something you mentioned, you were wanting to retire by the time you're age 55, but you did not mention that you were saving into any sort of like a taxable account or a non-retirement account. Now, depending on, as we talked a little bit earlier in a prior question, depending on your 401k, if you do retire from that employer and you are at age 55 when that happens, you may be able to access some of those funds on a penalty-free basis, not necessarily tax exempt, but a penalty-free basis, which is applicable to both traditional and Roth assets there. So it is there really are a couple of different moving pieces over here where you are not mistaken in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. Your tax bracket, I think, is kind of the big kicker over off this thing. If it's 70% of your assets over inside of that Roth account, you're really looking at trying to set yourself up where most of your income is going to be tax exempt. Looking here, you may be able to do additional pre-tax contributions and continue to lower your current year tax liability. We would want to run through an analysis to figure out exactly what that mix needs to be. How much should be pre-tax? How much should be continuing over to the Roth? But you are actually creating a very tax diverse plan, even at this point in time. I don't know if either of the other guys have anything that they would think, but I don't think it's necessarily about trying to pick a specific winner over through here. And it's really about optimizing your tax withdrawal plan based off of your current bracket and your expected bracket under current law. Not the tax code that you want, not the tax code that you fear, but the tax code as it is currently written. But I think you're definitely in a very strong position right now, and you're asking the right questions. And unfortunately, I just don't have a very good answer straight off the bat for you until we run through a financial plan and a much more in-depth analysis to figure out how much should be going into each one of these different tax categories.
There you go. It makes sense, and that's something that's really kind of nice to be able to see this, Whitney, because it's like, again, a lot of different things. Something that it's, for me, in the past few years, the Roth has really sort of stepped up. And I think for a lot of people it has too, because they're like, ooh, my tax diversification strategy may not be exactly where I want it to be.
Oh, you know what? I actually did just see in the question, she did do 25% in a separate taxable account. Mm-hmm. So she actually is doing that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're hitting all the different buckets that you need, at least when it comes over to this distribution strategy. So, I mean, without additional information, meaning a specific financial plan, I don't think I can answer your question. But you are doing all the right things, and you're thinking about this very well, which is awesome to see and awesome to hear.
And
Jonas Everett.
Compared to her peer group, most people don't have this tax-free account set up, this Roth IRA, and they always wish at the end of meetings they'll have 99% of their savings in taxable 401ks. And it's almost and a lot of times it's a good thing that they've saved money, but it's also a tax time bomb for their kids, and it's a dilemma for them to have to spend the money because they don't want to have to pay the taxes. So Whitney's done a great job here. She's actually ahead of her peers having this amount in Roth IRAs.
It's like that song, I got 99 problems, and they're all in accounts that I'm going to have to pay taxes on when my RMDs come out. So,
is Whitney always going to love Roth IRAs?
Yeah, I think that she will.
Well, you know, what I'm looking at here, I mean, I almost think that she's probably a little bit underfunded on the pre-tax accounts with only 5% of the overall investment net worth in those account types. I think she could certainly boost that up. But again, I mean, even at a 12% marginal bracket, we're in a relatively low tax scheme as it is right now anyway. So realistically, the big difference between pre-tax and traditional, it has a lot more to do with your distributions than it does really anything else. You know, if you think that your tax liability is going to be lower, meaning your marginal tax rate is going to be lower in the future. So for example, if you put everything into a Roth account right now, you just paid 12%. And then if you're in a 0% tax bracket, you paid 12 for the privilege of pulling out at 0. So I do think that if you look at the way the overall makeup of these assets are, you're probably a little bit light on the pre-tax accounts just because that Roth gives you so much flexibility that in the future you can pick and choose your tax bracket based off of the income sourcing that you're pulling this from. So I do think, kind of looking at this thing, you might be a little bit lower on the pre-tax amounts. But again, that depends on what your other sources of income may look like when you go into retirement. Because depending on the amount that you expect to receive from Social Security, if there's other income sources that you're not mentioning here, whether it's rental income, whether it's some other form of income that isn't necessarily embedded over within this question, and it has different tax characteristics or tax characterizations, we may want to bump up or we may not want to bump up those pre-tax contributions. So unfortunately, Whitney, I love your question. You're definitely thinking about this correctly. I cannot answer it without actually running a full analysis or going through a financial plan process to answer those questions. So go check us out at premieriwm.com. There's a Get Started button. I believe it's Get Started on there still.
Let's get started.
But go click on that, and we'd love to help you out with this, and we could actually definitively answer your question rather than having this giant hemming and hawing thing that we're doing.
Or you could just make your appointment online or call 800-383-6590. It's important, like Casey said, you got to make that appointment, and that's the most important thing to make sure that you're stepping forward. In the meantime, check out the Investor's Guide series and educate yourself online at premieriwm.com. The remaining moments we have left, question from Connie. My husband and I have about $500,000 we're looking to invest into a side hustle to diversify our income streams. My husband's a full-time surgeon. I'm a registered nurse, but not currently working, so I have more time to put into the new business at the start. Still not sure what type of business we want. A med spa seemed like the obvious answer given our medical background, but the market's kind of oversaturated. It's hard to find one for sale that isn't failing. We've also considered daycares, but the real estate side would be hard to figure out. What things should we be looking for or considering as we decide what type of business to invest in? Jonas, I'm going to go to you real quick and say, what do you think people underestimate most about buying a business?
Yeah, Connie, I would ask yourself this question. Are you doing this as another investment for you and your husband, or are you just basically buying another job? Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be some leadership and decision-making responsibilities. You're going to have some employees. And ultimately, this just reminds me of a coaching program I was in, and I went back and forth. I drove back and forth to Chicago 4 times a year for 2 years, and they had us stand up the first class, and why are you here? And I stood up and said my piece, and the guy next to me stood up and said, well, I put $500,000 in a restaurant. I lost all my money, and I don't want to do that ever again. So it's a difficult arena that you're entering into. What I would recommend, this is kind of off topic, but there's a book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth Revisited that it's a great book. It's a great foundation for people that are already in business to read and people entering the small business space. But ultimately, to summarize the utopian business, if Connie and her husband could find a business that they don't have to be present at all the time,
Turnkey,
that has systems in place, that is generating revenue, that Warren Buffett would call has a competitive advantage, or he likes to envision himself in a little dungeon with a pool of water outside, a big pond. Maybe Casey's relative built him a pond outside. He calls it a moat. A moat advantage, and they're very difficult to find. But best of luck. This is a great adventure for you and your husband. But read that book. E stands for entrepreneur myth.
Yeah.
So the E Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
One of the best read people you'll ever meet is Jonas Everett. He just devours books. Casey, from a financial perspective, what sort of questions do you think that Connie and her husband need to be answering before they invest $500,000 into a business?
I think the biggest question is, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, is it you mentioned on here we're looking for a side hustle to diversify income streams. Okay, so is this purely about rate of return? What sort of a return would be necessary for you to risk this capital? And then I think the other piece of it too, and this might get into maybe a little bit less financial, but what's the amount of time that you're willing to dedicate to this? You know, and again, I think that's actually something in that Gerber book that you're talking, the E-Myth Revisited. Like, are you trying to simply own the thing and you just collect paychecks? Because that is a very, very different conversation compared to if you're trying to build a business. Now, you mentioned this as side hustle. I think the side hustle culture, at least, you know, on a colloquially, I'm going to say, this idea of side hustle is really, really attractive. So is this idea of passive income. Traditionally, I've seen those two kind of used interchangeably. Now, one thing that I will say about passive income, and this is what I think a lot of people that get involved in those, find out very quickly. Passive income is a tax classification, it is not an activity. So what is your level of commitment when you are trying to build this thing? Because if we have a $500,000 investment that we're looking at doing, it depending on what you're dedicating for your time, energy, effort, and resources, the rate of return is going to matter, and how much are you willing to risk at that point in time in order to concentrate that wealth over into a single entity.
Elias, a couple of minutes for you. Let's talk about a little bit about the flip the script on this thing. It's not just about entering the business. It's about what happens at the back end of it.
That's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They focus on buying the business. Another question is, what will the exit strategy be for this business? Who's the future buyer going to be? Some businesses are much easier to sell than others. And the other thing we know is about 75% of small businesses are sold to no one. They never sell. And I do want to touch on something, because when Jonas was talking, that if you can find something that is running itself, and what he described is hard to find, and good luck finding it for $500,000. The business he described, where it's got systems and processes and doesn't need the owner to operate, which is probably what they're looking for. They're working full time. Those are going to be much more expensive than $500,000. So is this a good thing to set out to do? Potentially. I like the things we brought up. I think the first starting question, and Jonas brought this up already, is, are you looking for an investment or are you looking for another job? Yeah. You may buy something, and businesses that sell for $500,000, you're going to be in there operating them.
And the great thing, Connie, is your husband and you have $500,000 to invest. Look at different sources of income from this. Maybe instead of starting a business, you have some different investment opportunities to derive an income. If you're just looking for an income, maybe starting buying a business is the way to go, but you also have 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6 different other strategies that you could get an income from this $500,000.
Different ways to skin the cat.
She didn't ask this question, or like it wasn't embedded within here, but like if we're truly looking at a passive investment, like building out an investment portfolio, that is truly a passive investment. when you own a bunch of companies, a bunch of publicly traded companies especially, that have managers and other structures that are in place, that is passive income and that is ownership over in those various different entities. And so I think that, I get this idea, and I have to wonder if there's kind of this allure of like the TikTok / Snapchat / whatever the social media thing is, that hustle, 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 the hustle culture thing that continues to be out there. I don't know. I see a lot of it personally.
Side hustles are overrated.
I was
That's my
thinking
personal opinion.
of a $500,000 side hustle. What the hell is that? Seriously, it was like that was something else right there. I didn't expect that one. I didn't see that on my bingo
Well, I think
card
it's all
today.
relative, right?
Well,
Because
yeah,
I think, again, if you look at somebody who has actually been financially successful, where they're looking at this and they're saying, hey, we are trying to allocate these dollars over to something else in order to increase our income streams. Now, she didn't say this specifically over in here, but if they've been working in the medical field, and it looks like her husband has probably been pretty successful over off that side.
Both of them.
This probably represents not the bulk of their retirement assets. I'm going to guess they probably got other things that are going on, and really what they're trying to figure out is there something else that we can be deploying or doing with these dollars in order to be a little bit more efficient? And that stuff is out there. It's possible. But the thing is, maybe you need to look in the unsexy places first, right? Owning a business is this really grand, sexy idea. Maybe we need to go back to the basics really more than anything else. And that may give you the best opportunity and the best ability to actually deploy this capital most efficiently. Only here can you get those conversations.
Yeah, we're at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. We're looking for unsexy ways to
Like Doug Shorts.
yeah. I know. It's Pink Shorts. It's Pink Shorts Day, episode 2. We got that in Premier Investments and Wealth Management. My side hustle is driving rideshare. $500,000 for that's a pretty good one. I like that. Best of luck to you and your husband and him and his retirement as you make your way through. Get in touch with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. PremierIWM.com. Click Get Started. Just answer a few questions. They'll provide a Premier Vision document. One page. It's got a lot of information behind it for you, and it is tailored to you. It's like your DNA, your fingerprint for a roadmap for your financial future. Do that today. They'll give you a free meeting. They'll come to you. You can come to them. They'll do it over the internet anyway. Take advantage of that because there's not a lot of things in life that are truly free. They're not going to send you this thing that says, hey, meet me over at the steakhouse. Let's talk. No, they're going to talk to you, and they're going to have this one-page Premier Vision document and show it to you. They'll give it to you. Stop by the website, PremierIWM.com, or call to make your appointment today, 800-383-6590. That's 800-383-6590. For Elias Randel, for Jonas Everett, for Dr. Casey Mushrush,
Just you, Doug.
and for our producer, Molly, who makes us look and sound better than we ever deserve. Thank you for joining us here on the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. We'll talk to you again soon.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments in Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Dollar cost averaging involves continuous investment in securities, regardless of fluctuations in price levels. Investors should consider their ability to continue purchasing through periods of low price levels. Such a plan does not assure a profit and does not protect against loss in declining markets. Contributions to a traditional IRA may be tax deductible in the contribution year, with current income tax due at withdrawal. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS penalty tax in addition to current income tax. A Roth IRA offers tax deferral on any earnings in the account. Qualified withdrawals of earnings from the account are tax-free. Withdrawals of earnings prior to age 59.5 or prior to the account being open for 5 years, whichever is later, may result in a 10% IRS penalty tax. Limitations and restrictions may apply. A plan participant leaving an employer typically has 4 options and may engage in a combination of these options, each choice offering advantages and disadvantages. Those options include leave the money in their former employer's plan if permitted, roll over the assets to their new employer's plan if one is available, and rollovers are permitted, roll over to an IRA, or cash out the account value. Prior to investing in a 529 plan, investors should consider whether the investor's or designated beneficiary's home state offers any state tax or other state benefits such as financial aid, scholarship funds, and protection from creditors that are only available for investments in such state's qualified tuition program. Withdrawals used for qualified expenses are federally tax-free. Tax treatment at the state level may vary. Please consult with your tax advisor before investing. Forbes' Best in State Wealth Management Teams ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firm. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.